Hey, welcome back to Blacklist Universe. This is Mike, and today I am fixing Poison Ivy. I'm actually redesigning a Poison Ivy from the Suicide Squad game, where they turned the one of the most beautiful, sexy, elegant, bombshell characters in comics history into a grubby, ugly little Greta Thunberg-looking child. I don't understand. I don't understand anything they did design-wise in this game. But yeah, so here I am. I'm gonna be going ahead and turning Poison Ivy back into Poison Ivy. I mean, even if you had some sort of idea that like you wanted to, rebirth the character, I don't know. I just really don't understand why they are so absolutely opposed to anything beautiful, anything sexy, anything with sex appeal. Okay, to be fair, I do get it. I get the basic. I mean, if you look around what's happening today with the 4B movement and everybody getting up in arms and girls shaving their heads because they don't want to all of this madness. And if you look in general at the leftist view of, you know what it is, it's cultural Marxism. So in cultural Marxism, there's this idea of equity, right? Equity. They're always going on about equity. Well, equity means essentially it's an ideology that hates hierarchy in all of its forms, whether it's financial hierarchy, whether it's intellectual hierarchy, whether it's physical hierarchy, sexual hierarchy. You know what they hate? And this it is all from this poisoned view of the world, beauty hierarchy. That's why you see, and you can see it on Twitter, X, whatever, any social media, you'll see these beautiful young women who become leftists, and then they do everything that they can to destroy the beauty that God gave them. They will shave their heads, shave their eyebrows, put holes and rings through various places in their face, wear just the worst god-awful makeup. They'll do everything they can to shed the fact that they just happen to be blessed with a greater beauty, a hierarchical status of beauty in a world when they ideologically hate the concept of anyone being better than another. And so they tear themselves down physically in order to not have anyone point them out in their social group as the most beautiful or the best of anything. That is the antithetic. That's, you know what? That's why they started giving kids participation trophies. No one can be better than anyone else. You can run the race. You can run the race and you can come in first, but the guy that comes in last gets the same trophy. You know why? Because no one is better than the other. It doesn't matter. Both teams play. That means both teams win. It's this whole, it all derives from Marxism, and it is a detriment to society. It is a detriment to human flourishing. The whole concept of competition in the world is what begets greater and greater invention, lower prices. It makes markets work. We have beauty queens. We have people who win sports competition. It's competition breeds excellence. And when you have a mindset that hates competition because it is driven by a hatred of hierarchies, you destroy the very society that you live in. Do you really want to live in a world where everybody was equally ugly, equally miserable, and equally poor? Wow, I just jumped right on my soapbox and started running on this one, didn't I? Gosh, let's maybe get back to the actual drawing here. So, Poison Ivy has always been, like I said in the beginning, one of the sexiest characters in comics. And here's the thing, I am a Christian and I don't want to parade characters around naked. That's just not what I want to do, because as much as I believe the female form is one of the most beautiful things that God ever created, and it is, still I believe in a sense of modesty. And so I was a little trepidatious about how sexy to make this Poison Ivy character. But that's her. That is the character. Poison Ivy is this sexy beast. And she is that way because, I don't know, to me, she's like a flower, right? It's like nobody condemns you because you want to just stare at a flower because of how beautiful it is, because God designs things beautifully. Everything God's designed, I mean, from the shell on the back of a snail to the leaves on the trees to the feathers on any given bird. I mean, the intricacy, I mean, right down to the atomic level, you get a electron microscope and you see beauty there. You look up into the stars and you see beauty there. And so when God creates like flowers and the plants and the thing, he's just created such a beautiful world. And to me, poison ivy is supposed to embody that beauty from just a naturalist perspective. She identifies more with the plants than she does with the humans. And so as a plant, I think of her as a flower. And as a flower, she wants to, or she just simply is by nature something of just enormous beauty that you just want to stare at. And nobody says you're a lech for staring at a flower or the sunset or any of the other just magnificently beautiful things in the world. So I think that's why Poison Ivy should be just one of the most beautiful characters in comics. And maybe I didn't do her justice. Maybe, I don't know, I tried. And then I tried, this is kind of my own thing when I'm doing Poison Ivy. I like to weave vines into her hair. It's just kind of a thing. And like kind of have the plant life just sort of molding over her. Not like she's wearing a suit of leaves, which I get that's kind of her standard thing, but I want the plants on her to like just be alive and be entangled with her and just almost be like just part of her, or at least like they're growing on her because they are attached to her or attracted to her. I don't even know how you'd want to really phrase it, but climbing wall vines and stuff, I have them on my fence. I love them. But that's it, right? They just attach to the wall because that's where they get their nutrients and whatever, and or that's where they can plant their roots. And so that's kind of the way I wanted to do her costume, or not her costume, just like she should just be all natural. She shouldn't be wearing nylon tights. I honestly don't think Poison Ivy would wear nylon, right? I don't think she'd wear anything artificial. It would all have to be 100% natural. And so in my imagination, in my rendition of Poison Ivy, everything is just natural and it's growing on her, and it covers her private parts, but it also allows her to exude her natural beauty, her God-given beauty. And I mean, a woman's body, like I said, is just, you could tell God's a man because the female body, the female form is without question one of the most beautiful things on earth. And you do, even if you're not sexually stimulated, it is still, regardless, the most beautiful shape. And it's like every part of a female form is just beautifully shaped. It's like the desert dunes, right? Like the desert dunes at sunset, and you're just looking at these sloping curves, and it's just beautiful, right? I mean, that's the same thing with all the individual shapes. Someone made a crack that, yeah, except the feet. No, even the feet can be beautiful. And I know there's certain people out there who just absolutely adore feet. So I hope you enjoy the feet that I drew for Poison Ivy this time. But yeah, there again, see, you can see that I had the vines just draping around, creating design, but at the same time, all being like real and fresh. It's not like, oh, she's got a tattoo of vines on her. The vines are the costume, and it is what covers her modest bits, her immodest bits, let's call it that. And I even did something of a fig leaf down there in the fig leaf area because of, like Michelangelo and Leonardo. When they're doing all the Romantic era or the ancient paintings and stuff, they would put fig leaves. Actually, you know what it was? The original sculptors made everybody naked, and then at some point the Pope went in and said, hey, can you just cover up that part right there with a fig leaf? And so it's kind of, but it's one of those, it's an ode to modesty, where you just use the little fig leaf. Yeah, yeah, you hide the bits and the pieces that allow it to be. Look, something as covered as this would be in the Vatican, right? I've been to the Vatican. Oh, the Sistine Chapel. Actually, the Sistine Chapel has straight up nudity. Well, there you go. If you're Michelangelo was very, very, obstinate about showing the beauty of the God-created form, and it wasn't sexual at all. It was just, I'm gonna paint man as God created him, and he did. And so, yeah, the Pope wasn't very thrilled about it, but the artist stood firm and honored the beauty that God created. And I tried to do that here, but I'm not going to draw pink parts, if you know what I'm saying. That's just me. I'm a little more modest than Michelangelo was. And so, yeah, here we go back in with the coloring. I'm doing the classic tint, tone, hue coloring style. I started by giving her green skin. I thought about it for a while. I'm trying to remember. It's one of is Arkham Asylum, right? Arkham Asylum, where they gave Poison Ivy green skin, right? Green skin with the red hair. And so I kind of started there, but then I was, I don't know. You'll see it in a little bit. But the tint tone hue, for those of you who haven't seen a video lately, so I start with a base hue. Hue means color, right? So the base color, and obviously I chose green here. I went ahead and I dropped a tone layer in just as a solid shade block, right? And then what I do is I go in and I determine a direction the light wants to come from, and then I cast that light onto the shade and delete out the shadow areas, or I delete out from the shadow where the light is cast. So I can have a better idea. I can use a lot more shade. Like sometimes when you're shading things and you're going the opposite way, where you're like everything's light and then you want to drop in the shade, and you kind of have to do this when you're drawing. But when you're doing this, actually this is kind of the way they do it in oil paints. So you drop in your shades first, and then you highlight your way out. And so that's kind of why I do that this way. But when you're drawing, it's like sometimes it's like you don't want to, if you've drawn something, you don't want to shade over something you've already drawn. So that's why it's good. Sometimes it's like if you do a thumbnail of what you want to draw, and then you block in your black areas, and then you don't have to go back in with your details. I don't know if it saves time. It probably does save time, frankly. But this is just, to me, it's like I want to have the shade areas. I want to not be afraid of shading an area. And so that's why I kind of drop in the shade first. And sometimes it's like, man, you could do a thing where you're just fully casting the whole front of the character into shadow, and then you just have a rim light, right? Accentuating some, one of the sides, left, right, doesn't matter. Or a core shadow where you've got rim lights on the left and the right, and then you've just got the core of the character is in shadow. So these are all different lighting concepts that I shouldn't even be talking about them because I'm not showing them on the screen while I'm doing them. I'm just talking through this shading technique here. And then I did the drop shadows, you could see on all the leaves, right? The leaves are standing away from the flesh, so you want the shadow to fall onto the flesh. You have drop shadows on things to give depth for things that are apart from, like the hair is going to drop a shadow. The nose is going to drop a shadow onto the lip. The lip is going to drop a shadow onto the chin, right? So the drop shadows give dimensionality. And then you can go in and throw textures for shadows because, it's not really shadows at that point. It's just tonal variations for textures, like I'm doing here on some of the leaves. Boy, these leaves took a long time to do the extra shading and whatnot, because I did, like I said, they're not just painted on there. They are living leaves that are just climbing up the character. And then it was time to drop the highlight. Well, first I went back and switched it to a flesh tone, because Although this is a very light pink flesh tone. That's another thing. It was like Poison Ivy. I don't know. I made her light. I'm used to making her light because she's a redhead, and redheads generally don't tan very well. But I recently discovered something that melanin is actually 2 to 3 times more adept at converting light into energy than chlorophyll is. And so you wouldn't want to make her green because green would be indicative of having chlorophyll in her skin rather than melanin in her skin. And plants absorb light. So I don't know. It is a very good argument. Not that I would do it because everyone would claim that everyone would say it's erasing another redhead, but it's actually like physiologically a very good argument for making Poison Ivy black because the melanin, the more melanin you have, or at least very dark skin, not necessarily black, but maybe like just very dark skinned, the more melanin you have, the more you can convert sunlight into energy. It's very interesting. I didn't do it because it's not the character and everybody. But if there was ever an excuse to turn a redhead into a black woman, it would be Poison Ivy. It like literally would. I'm not saying they should, and I'm not saying I would, and I'm not hoping that they do. But at least there would be an excuse in that case. So here I am. I did the flesh tone in another layer. So then I went in and I deleted the flesh tone from the plant layers. And this is where I sort of started going, you know what? I mean, it is a little maybe too immodest for just my personal takes. You might be fine with this, but I wouldn't want to I wouldn't want my wife wearing this costume outside the home at least. So after I dropped in and I did all the layers and I saw the color different, when you have the color variation, it like becomes obvious how much just pure flesh is being exposed here, and it's like it'd be the skimpiest of skimpy bathing suits. And so I actually, after you see this, I should probably talk about it when I'm doing it, but it just took so long for me to do all the vines. This one actually took me probably 50% more time than any of my other drawings that I've done for this channel, and I think it's all because of the detail of the vines. The vines just took so very long to do. And I did the same thing here with when I was color spotting the hair, is I did a hair layer and then I like copy and pasted, and then I went back in and I deleted where it was not hair. So, and then I gave her sort of a slight purple tint to her lipstick, I didn't just want it to be like a bright red, right? Which isn't very interesting. And so, yeah, that's why I'm looking at it. And I'm like, well, should I make her green? If it's green, actually what I did give her a little bit of the green tint, except when except you'll see it. The slight green tint in her skin disappears when I drop the background in, because the background color I used as a contrasting color to the green, and then it tricks your eyes into not seeing the green. When it's green against orange, green against white, you can see how green it is, right? But when you see the final backgrounds, it's like, it's actually kind of funny, I think. So here it is. I'm looking at it and I'm like, you know what? Maybe we need to add some darker green so it's just not as blatantly flesh. And so I tried a texture, but then I'm like, I don't like just the texture. So I went back in, I selected her flesh area, and I just went in and I added a little extra layer of leaves, of foliage, just to cover up a bit more of the flesh and make it a little more modestly palatable for me personally. Again, I'm sure a lot of you are like, no, leave it off. I get it, I do. And like I said, I'm not Michelangelo, so I wanted to make it a little bit more modest, and it's fine. You still see all of her beautiful curves and everything, but it just, I don't know. I think it comes out when you see it, darken up that green. It just, look, I was dealing a lot with flowers this weekend for my daughter's wedding, and the more flowers, the better, I think. Or the more foliage, the better. But see, yeah, look how, okay, the colors didn't change. The color of her skin didn't change. But when I dropped all of that green in there, now it looks like regular skin tone compared to all the other foliage, which I thought was hilarious after the fact. But it's like, anyways, I've been babbling on too much for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like just watching these videos, please do subscribe to the channel. I've noticed a great many of you guys are just watching these videos and not subscribing. So if you want to catch these, I'm going to try to do them more often than I have been the last few weeks. But definitely subscribe, hit that like, hit that bell for all notifications. And by the way, every week on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, me and some of my other artist friends get together for a drawing competition called Drawn and Quartered. Please do join us there. If you can, become part of the community, join the Discord, link is in the description, and hopefully I will see you all on the next video.